Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings,
And ourselves.
we stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world heroes among us, and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us all. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a better place, a whole new world,
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear at 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Oh, we're talking shh. IT.
Another Thursday.
Yeah, and back in the restream.
Excellent.
Been a moment. Since the WAG, like we've been doing it over in the Zoom because it's a little easier with everything we're shuffling around. But now that we've gotten through round 2 and we're rolling into round 3, it's getting a little easier. Things have been cut down drastically from 32 to 16 to now 8. And last week we covered some of the genres that they had done for round 2. Round 2 produced some fantastic songs. And for round 3, Saturday, we picked the mashups for that round. And what they came up with was pop came back for another round, which is good because the pop from round 2, I didn't hear as much pop as I wanted to hear. So I'm hoping that with this round, we're going to get to some of that poppier pop. It's going to be the Unfantastic and RJS going against Pinky Chew and Maria Perdomo. And I mean, these are going to be interesting mashups. They all have some pop in them.
For sure. Now, which one's going to have more cowbell? That's the question.
Yeah. Now, would the cowbell constitute a little bit of rock?
Well, it depends. I mean, that can be very Southern too. So it all depends on, it depends on the usage and the prominence of the cowbell in the song, I suppose.
Yeah, let's take a look here. This is our round 1 contestants. And for the second mashup, which is the one that I'm looking forward to tonight's videos on, because we've only touched on this one a little bit in our episodes, but funk.
Nice.
And I've got 2 videos there that really very interested in. I think you're going to really like the last one. Let's take a look and see what we've got lined up here.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love the funk.
And I've got a little bit of variety. To start, we're going to be looking at some news. Things that are coming out, like, the AI laws and what's going on there. It's
Yeah,
constantly changing like every day.
exactly. And
And
she's a good one to keep up with for that kind of thing for sure.
yes, of all channels, like when it comes to what's going on in the music industry, this channel rules them all.
Hmm.
Not only is she an awesome lawyer who knows what she's talking about, but
Hmm.
she also sees it from an artist perspective because she's also a talented artist. So, you get to hear from a good source here, and nobody has been studying what's going on with the AI copyright laws more than her. She
Hmm.
is updating every night on this.
Indeed, lots of good stuff.
Yeah, and here she's going to be talking about what's going on over at Udio because there's a lot of changes going on there.
Hmm. Nice.
And then to kind of slide into the genre themes that we're going to be looking at tonight, this one is very different than the genres we've been talking about. I've never heard of these genres. These are all genres that are coming from other countries, other parts of the world. And what I found interesting with this one is, he's suggesting some of these genres are going to start to take some relevance in 2025. So
Hmm.
I'm curious to see and hear like what's going on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, and trying to see what kinds of, even if only elements of these styles make it into new stuff in 2025 here. It'd be interesting to see which ones track, which types of changes or which types of things stay constant from one thing to the next.
Yeah, yeah. And then we're going to slide into our look at some of the genres that the WAG competition round three is going to be bringing.
Mhm.
And pop, it's one we covered because they had a pop mashup last week,
Mhm.
but um, I've had some discussions about the history of pop, and one of the things that has been coming up is how much it changes per decade.
Mhm.
And depending on who are the pop artists of the decades, how pop is constantly shifting in
Mhm.
in different directions. So we're going to look at every pop culture from the 50s till now and how the Paint Doodler, who this is a cool channel. This
Mhm.
it's another channel like kind of like the C Note one that we've looked at,
Mhm.
where it's a lot of drawing to kind of show things, and
Sure.
he breaks down the decades really well.
Mhm. Nice. It'll be interesting to see what's where. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I slid over to David Bennett, fantastic source,
Oh yeah.
not just for piano, but music theory in general.
Mhm.
He studies music and has some of the best videos that I've come across when it comes to information. He noticed that 97% of pop is in 4/4, something
Mhm.
that
Yep.
not a shocker to me,
Mhm.
but he's going to take a look at that like 3%
Mhm.
that's not.
Yep. That little slice.
And that's where some of the best pop and the most interesting
Mhm.
comes from. So I wanted to at least take a look at that on the pop side, hopefully give some of these pop artists some ideas on thinking a little differently.
Mhm. Sure. But as it says, over 96% was in 4/4 time, and that's
Well,
there's a reason for that too.
yeah, you don't want to ignore the
Mhm.
norm. You just
Mhm.
want to know how you could
It's
kind
good to
of
be aware
get
of.
around it.
It's good to be aware of it, and good to be aware of some of the examples of people who went outside that norm and how they did it to see, if that suits the song you're looking to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Tatius likes to encourage people to get some reference tracks when you are
Mhm.
doing a new genre. Find some songs that are in the genre
Mhm.
and don't necessarily duplicate them, but innovate
Yeah.
with those ideas.
Yeah, understand that they're, you know, again, they're popular for a reason. You know, they are included in this whole thing because of it. I already love what I see behind them there. Accent on beat one. Yes.
Well, and you know this guy
Oh yeah.
because
Well, they,
anybody
for
that's
sure.
followed us knows we love Paul David's channel.
Yep.
And when it came to funk, the man delivered an awesome funk video. How everyone can play funk,
If it's the
whether
one I'm
you're a
thinking of, I love
beginner
this
or
one
a
for
pro.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it covers it both from the starting side and the expert. And
It's one to have your guitar in your hand and when, you know, play along because it's a lot of fun and it's easy to get right into and it sounds really cool.
yeah, yeah, he's always giving great tutorials.
Indeed.
And for the last one, this one is the one I'm really looking forward to because Bootsy Collins, one of the most impressive bassists that I've heard in my lifetime. And I've just come to like appreciate his contributions and what he brings to the bass world. But I really wanted to understand more of how funk has evolved from his influence. And this is a Freshy channel, KOM band music, and he's got a whole bunch of series. This is episode 5, and it just happens to be focused on Bootsy. But I really am looking forward to going back and catching all these other episodes. I like the
For sure.
journey. I like the journey he's going on.
Yeah, no, that's a journey that would be worthwhile for sure.
Yeah.
And like you're saying with Bootsy, I mean, I love to just throw something on and just play along, figure out little parts, little nuggets, because certain things just hit your ear just right from his playing. And if you can duplicate even little bits here and there and sprinkle them into your playing, that'll be a win for sure.
Yeah. So to start, we're going to take a quick look here at what's going on over at Udio. She has been dealing with them and Suno and trying to establish, where are the lines on what's going on with copyrights, what's going on when you do use AI music, and how YouTube and the platforms are looking at copyright when it comes to AI. And they don't seem to want to deal with it. They don't want AI music to be copyrightable because when it is, you're finding a lot of artists getting strikes for sounding like the AI music when the AI music is actually the one sounding like the artists.
Right. Getting the reverse strike essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's been addressing it, and let's get that loaded up. Move these around. Hey, Glenn.
Hello. Checking out my new studio, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Made some upgrades myself over here.
All right, and I've got our clips. So let's see what's going on there, and then we'll get into our genre explorations.
All right.
Udio updated their terms of service. I'm looking at what limitations, what are the no-nos, at what point when one of you gets sued because you use this platform and the melody was like too close to the Universal song and Universal's now suing you. If you're using this, if you're doing the thing, please, make sure you just... Udio was actually the first platform where I did a terms of service review back in March of 2024, and they've since updated their terms of service. Now, the terms of service, why do you care? This is the contract that you sign when you use this platform. And in the realm of you creating cool things, putting it on the internet, putting it on music platforms, we just want to make sure that you are protected and that you have, like, I don't know, a plan long term to be able to monetize what you create. So as I've been going through these different contracts for these different AI music platforms, I'm looking at, can you use your stuff commercially? Can you put it on music platforms? What limitations? What are the no-nos that you cannot do? okay? Because I want you to not get into trouble with these platforms. So if you're excited, get your gavels, give this video a big thumbs up. Let's go. Let's go. All right. So the last time that the terms of service were updated were actually May. So this is the third update that we've done, but I'm going to go through it with you. So that's why it says May, because I did a little comparison. I'm a lawyer, okay? And so what I do is that when I'm reviewing new contracts, I compare them and I go, what's new about this one? So again, this is a contract. When you click the little I agree button, you are agreeing to the contract that is on the website, which happens to be this one. So it goes, hey, letting you know all this good stuff. So I highlighted in the same kind of way. I do this for my clients, right? Through my law firm. I send them little videos just like this. And I'm just going to explain stuff that you really need to know. All right. So starting with in section 1, it goes the services, basically using Udio. This allows you to put in prompts. What you get out of it are called input content. When you put in your pictures, your audio files, your lyrics, like anything that it allows you to input, that's going to then be your input content. And what we're going to talk about is that for a lot of these platforms, you now have the ability to input your own music. And in doing that, I'm worried, and there's stuff you need to know. So we're going to talk about that. And then what comes out is called the output. All right. Now, here it goes. You agree that we may use your input stuff, right? So it might be your song, your lyrics, your whatever. And the output is then used to train our AI for purposes of our services. And for me, I'm a creative. I've made music for a long time, and I still make music. For me, these companies that put in these contracts that they're going to use my music to train their AI, and then we're going to get to it. Spoiler alert, it's going to say, we're going to use your music to potentially help create other people's outputs. And so I go, logically, what that is literally saying is my music could end up in someone else's song. And so I get very, very worried about using these platforms for that reason. Even though very much would love to put in a quick instrumental, get some ideas for melodies, you know what I'm saying? But you guys got to keep this in mind, because I know this is how you're using these platforms. So it goes on, the services may allow you to download copies of other people's outputs. Again, whatever you do on this platform may end up in other people's music. They might download your outputs, right? Just because that's what this platform apparently does. So we're keeping a note of that. All right, so we scroll down. When you guys see red, I ran a red line. So red is what is new. This is what's been newly added. So they go, you may create, you can manage more than one account. However, you cannot have more than one account if it's on the free tier. So I was reading this and I go, look, the reason why these companies end up making updates to the terms of service is usually because something happened. Maybe they got sued. Maybe they had a problem with customers. So there's always a reason why they've made these changes. And so I go, well, I'm assuming they made this change because some people are kind of abusing the free tier and they're setting up lots of different accounts. So they go, look, you're cool to create multiple accounts, but we really don't want you doing this to try to like usurp us and to basically have a bunch of freebies. So they added that in. If you're needing legal help, feel free to reach out to Delgado Entertainment Law, which is my firm. We offer free case evaluations with our case managers. So just meaning you don't have to make any kind of commitment. We'll just see how we can help you. Feel free to call us. You can text, you can email. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, restrictions on your use of the services. They also added the following. They go, hey, it's not okay for you to impersonate or attempt to impersonate someone else using our services. This includes by providing inputs that you do not have authority to use, or by providing inputs to attempt to create outputs that impersonates someone else without their authorization. On a recent video, we covered AI voices and how some of these companies, also of which that I'm looking at, they're like, hey, you want to create Taylor Swift's voice? And I'm like, guys, if you see that, there's all kinds of publicity laws that say you cannot do that. You cannot go and use someone's voice without their consent. So that's why these companies are making it real clear in their contracts with you. They're like, hey, we're letting you know you're not allowed to do that. That's no good. So that's actually one of the things that they added here. They also added, you can engage in artificially increasing or manipulating the number of plays, likes, or metrics of your outputs or outputs of other users. All right. So no fakery, no boosting. All right, moving on. This is the hot topic, guys. Ownership and what can you do with this? This is what the current terms say. They go, look, as it relates to our services, the look, feel, our trademarks, all of our stuff, you don't get to do anything with it. We're just letting you use it, and we're fine with that. But then they go, what you generate. So of what you generate on this platform, good news, you may use your output for personal and commercial purposes. All right, commercial purposes, meaning for profit, to monetize, putting it on Spotify, putting it on your YouTube channel, having ads run on your YouTube channel. Cool. They're saying that, right? You can download a copy, but and closely following right after that, in order for us to let you use the services, we have to get a license from you for your content. And you grant to us and all of our affiliates, successors, assigns, designees, so basically like whoever we decide to give this right to. Let me be clear about this. It's saying you're not only giving the right to Udio, you're also giving the right to whoever Udio says it's going to give the right to. So that's, don't like that, okay? But that's what it says. And then we can also, with the stuff that you make, we can reproduce it, we can publish it, we can distribute it, we can modify it. Like, oh my gosh, okay. For clarity, the grant of right is necessary for us and our assigns and our designees and whoever we want to give the right to. We can also create derivative works. Do I think they're gonna like take your song and go make remixes of it? I don't know, but they could, pursuant to that language. All right, and then also, P.S. We're not going to pay you anything else, but we can use anything you make on our platform to advertise, promote, market. It's royalty free. It's fully paid. We're not giving you anything, no compensation for anything. Okay. And so when I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this big net. The big net is being cast on you. You give me all the rights under the sun. Just so you know. Gotta love these terms of service. So moving on, it goes, as for the foregoing license, you grant and agree that other services may have the right to comment and tag on your content. So basically there's like this sharing thing that happens. You're disclaiming any kind of problems that might come up. Here's the credit stuff. They talk about attribution. They go, we reserve the right to identify you to the public, like at any time. For me, I'm like, are you okay with that? You user and how you kind of use this platform right now. Are you okay if this platform is ever like, your song went viral? And they're like, yeah, you made the song on our platform. Understand that you have given the right to this platform to identify you to the public and you can't pull that back. Also, hey, just a quick heads up. Due to the nature of artificial intelligence and machine learning, your output may not be unique and the services may not actually, like, it might appear in someone else's song. When I do consultations with you amazing creatives and you're just like, Johnny in the group is using AI to help come up with whatever, like instrumentals, lyric ideas, melody ideas, and then it's going and like recreating the music. It's muddy at best, but here's the thing. Your creation did originate from this platform in one way or another. If you're using it, even if you're like, oh, I'm going to outsmart it and just re-record it, right? Or just kind of tweak it, make it my own. So I'm not actually using the final output. I go, still, we have to keep all the concerns in mind about the good news is it does say you can use it for commercial purposes. Okay. But that's not where the analysis ends. All right. We talk about copyright. We talk about your registrations and protecting yourself. Let me see. I think there was a limitation of liability in here, which just kills me with these contracts because they're like, hey, and also, by the way, there's pretty much no way for you to ever get a meaningful remedy. If there's a problem, you cannot get in a lawsuit, in whatever, more than $100 or any amount that you had paid to us for the past 6 months of services. So this is why you need to be careful because these companies go, hey, we're letting you have this fun tool. We know you're going to love it. And there's all kinds of things that we're going to have the right to. We're not going to pay you for any of the additional uses of your name, to use your music to train our AI. So you're just giving away those rights. But then also, if something really bad happens, like, I don't know, you get sued because that's a thing. Udio, Suno, I mean, these big AI music companies are getting sued because they're like, hey, you are spitting out songs that sound very similar, if not exact, to other people's real songs, legacy songs. And I'm like, at what point when one of you gets sued because you use this platform and the melody was like too close to the Universal song and Universal's now suing you? So what I would say as far as if you're using this, okay, I want to set you up for success. If you're doing the thing, okay, keep all the things I said in mind, but then and also please make sure you just keep as close of a record as possible when you create stuff. Have folders on your computer. Back up your folders of the different iterations of songs that you came with to show that you created it on this platform so that when there's a problem, you can at least reach out to me and we can have a conversation about how we handle this. I hope that's not you. I hope this doesn't happen. But what I do hope is that you learned something from this video. Okay, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one on Top Music Attorney.
Oh, by all means, subscribe. Just the free PDF alone is worth the price of admission to get that information.
Definitely. Lots of good
And
points in there. And again, I like the way that she goes through all of the language and really breaks out the parts that are the most important or the, most changed, most impactful since the last iteration.
well, I like where she gets concerned because in all that squirrely language, the things that concerns her are the things that concern me, especially when the impersonating.
Yeah.
That
Training
is
the
going.
AIs, that's new ground that we've gotten into. And yeah, I mean, it's a thing. And they're saying you can use this cool tool that we got you, but it's going to help us to help everybody else make more music. And as she said, that means that your songs could be incorporated into, at least even into the mind space of the new tool,
Yeah, and that's one of the things that she has been arguing with them and fighting them about is the impersonating works in both directions. So if the AI is generating something that it's trying to impersonate an artist, and the artist comes out with something after the fact that sounds like what the AI produced, there's this weird circle of the artist is the one getting the copyright marks because they sound like themselves.
Yep.
And it's happening.
Yeah. And that's where maybe instead of like picking one artist and trying to really focus on sounding like that or trying to impersonate that, pick two artists and go for a blend and see if
Yeah.
you can move that slider like a little more this side or a little more that side and, try to work it out where it's not uniquely either one of them, but enough between the two that it doesn't count.
Well, and this is just emphasizing the importance of bringing yourself into the music.
Yep.
Finding something about your musicship that makes it unique, distinct. Nowadays, it's more important than ever for an artist to actually define themselves. Otherwise, they will sound like everybody else.
Yep. And again, it's all the same 12 notes. So, it's all about what you do with them.
Yeah. So that was Miss Crystal over at Top Music Attorney. Again, awesome legal resource for artists and musicians. You're getting great advice here. She's paying attention to one of the most important topics right now in the music industry.
Yeah, and as she said, she stays on top of it for reasons. I mean, she has clients. She's into this stuff all the time. So it's like we're not necessarily looking at this ourselves, but she's actually doing this daily. So it's high on mind, and as far as what she's doing there.
She's reading all that legalese and disclaimer that most of us don't. Most people, including myself, jumped on Udio, said, "Hey, let's try this out." You just skip over that, create an account, and go.
You're in business, yeah. And that's the thing is, if all you're doing is just jumping in and just going to hit some notes and whatever, no big deal. But if you're going to jump in there and say, okay, I'm going to bring my whole catalog of songs that I've written over the last 20 years and I'm going to go import them into this tool and do all this stuff with them, that's a different thing. So like on any of these tools, I would hold back on something like that. Using the tool for something new, using it to test some things out, using it for just some, ideas that are not specifically songs that you've worked on for a long time. I would start with stuff like that just to see. If something like that goes viral, no big deal. I mean, it's something that was just nothing and now it's something. Whereas if you had something that was, something that was yours definitively, and then, someone makes a derivative work that goes viral and you don't like that derivative work, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, considering their statements on input and output and the rights they reserve to use it, don't put your hit song that like your golden ticket song into AI,
right?
Unless you're ready to give up some of that creative part of your song, because they have said they're going to use it to teach the AI. So save some of your work for human consumption.
Yeah. And again, some of it could come down to just protecting your work before you even put it in there. If it is something that you've worked on for some time, is it a matter of getting the copyright first and then saying, okay, now take copywritten work and put it into the tool? Does that make a difference at that point? I don't know.
Well, see, and that's a good thing to consider and a good point. Like if you really do care about that song and you want it to be yours and yours alone in identity, copyright it before you go playing around with the AI, so that way you at least have some protection.
And even in a simplified form, that was the other thing, is if you might not have your Hotel California written in its final form right now, but you might have the ideas behind all of it already there. You could record it in like a simple, one person with an acoustic guitar, format, just to get the ideas of the song down, get the core structure of it, the way the verses go, the choruses go, all of that, get that down and get that part copywritten, because now at least that structure is there and you can make a more expansive version of it with 12 voices and everything else later. But having this as the starting point is, to me, that would be better than just taking something, throwing it into a tool like that.
Absolutely. When it comes to a lot of these cases, time when something was created factors in big time. So
and that's the iterations she's talking
if
about, the
you do
backing up.
have, yeah, if you have proof that, hey, I wrote this song in this year and it blew up a year later, going through an AI process, at least you have that initial proof that where the parts of the song that you might have to go have a lawsuit over, you can at least prove when you did it.
Yep, exactly.
If you don't, chances are you won't have a case, and most courts won't even entertain those cases. They demand that the lawyers go settle before you waste time in front of a judge.
Yeah. It's important to protect the stuff. And that's the thing. A lot of times you don't know which things would need to be protected, because it's just, it was just this project I was working on or that project I was working on, and it became the one that became the big hit. You weren't expecting it. You didn't set out to make it that way. It happens,
Think about the things that tend to get copyright litigation. Words, vocals, instrument recordings, not necessarily drums, because drums is one of those weird ones where you can't copyright a beat, no matter how much any drummer says, like, this was mine. And yes, the cowbell at the beginning of Don't Fear the Reaper, but they can't copyright cowbell, and Aerosmith can't copyright that little doom, because there's plenty of songs that did it before, and there's plenty of songs that will do that after.
And if you
But
can play some funky drummer, that's even better.
Yeah, words and melodies, those are especially the ones that tend to, like, if people use the same phrases, and it's more than just one or two words, it's using the same words in the same way, sometimes with the same melody, that you start to see the lawsuits.
Let's face it, there's certain things, certain themes that are quite common in songs, and those themes have certain words that describe them, and those words only rhyme with so many words, right? So there's only so many things so many different ways you can say it, but that's why a lot of the best songs are the ones that don't just come out and, have the lyrics just stating everything, like, he was walking down the street and whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that literal. It should be more, what did it evoke? Like, just give something about the scene that was going on, something about the breeze in the air or the way the light was coming down, something like that. Something not specifically, don't tell the story, illustrate the scene around the story.
And that's a lot like how a good writer fills in the gaps between the things that need to get explained and the observations. A good writer can actually take somebody else's story and completely rewrite it with their own observations. And now it's their story at that point, because they've brought themselves into the work.
And you're trying to get the reader to, use their imagination to fill in these blanks, rather than, specifically just vomiting out all the details to them. You're just, allowing them to fill in the blanks of the details with their own experience.
And that's why in the beginning of all that legalese, you saw all the way they defined your input and the things that you bring to the table and what the AI does, and how they're considering handling your input versus what the AI generates. The moment you're jamming with their machine, they're in the band. And that's what that legalese is saying.
Well, it's not only that they're in the band, but they're in the band and you're not. Like you can get a copy of what we did, but you don't own any of this anymore. Like that's the problem. It's like it's the bandmate who just takes everything.
Some of her interpretation and her concerns there, like I said, I feel the same way. Like, wait a minute. So I guess I get credit that I'm in the band, but I'm not a songwriter anymore. I'm just a contributor at the low level.
Yep. And then they made derivative works based on what I said.
Yeah, and they can use that for commercial uses and marketing.
And other people's stuff.
It actually stinks of the same problem when Facebook first came out with their disclaimer that any pictures, anything you post to this platform, we reserve the right to use and promote in whatever way we want to. That was a big deal for like a day. And people were like, oh my God, no way. And then guess what? Nothing changed. And people eventually stopped caring that like literally the photos and things. If you're a professional photographer and you post up your pictures into Facebook, you might not be getting those stock royalties and other things that you thought you could get because
it's out there.
It's out there, and Facebook reserves the right to use it whenever the hell they want.
Now, would watermarking something make a difference? I mean, they could just crop it, I assume. But
well, and in the case of photographers, watermarking is a big thing. I mean, even back in the portrait days, portrait studios would put their watermark on a picture so that if someone tried to go and get it reproduced at the photo store, we weren't allowed to reproduce photos from professional studios.
Yep. Like you were saying, it's like with the digital printers and all that, or digital cameras. Like you can tell if it was printed in a digital camera. Same thing. This was the origins of that, which was kind of making sure you could trace things back to certain things.
I feel that with these AI generated audio tracks, they're going to have to find a way to stamp them at the metadata level so that regardless of how many times you copy this file, even if you take the track, process it, and put it into another DAW, the type of watermark I'm talking about will still be there because it's part of the initial sound. You don't necessarily have to hear it, but it is a way of identifying that later you could use a watermark reader to see if there is something in that media file.
Right.
And I think that's coming. I think that if you're going to have computer generated media, at some point there's going to be a file meta tag that is not removable because it's not in one consistent place. It's like having a picture with 1 billion pixels and only a handful of pixels are actually blanked out so that it's like a barcode. And if I take this like little scanner, you might not see anything when you're looking at the picture as far as that watermark, but those few pixels strategically removed is a barcode.
Yep. And again, it's an arms race, so that the better we get at detecting something, the better people are at avoiding it. And it's a back and forth with all of that. But at this point, it's more just about making sure you can reserve the rights for your work and don't let your work get absorbed up into some of these AI clouds that are happening. If it's work that you've put a lot of time into.
I think your advice of get it established and copywritten before you go into that playground, and that's about the best you can do to secure yourself in this unknown new world.
And even there, you might have to check in those terms of service to make sure that it doesn't specifically disallow copywritten content to be put in, because they might do that too, just to say, hey, we want to have, they want the ownership and they already saw this coming and saw the way around that,
Yes, they might complain that they can't actually utilize their terms of service with this material, so therefore don't use it.
Who knows?
So,
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if my stuff went viral, it's like, oh, you know, such a terrible problem to have. You know, like your stuff went viral, and now you're trying to fight for the, you know, for the rights of it. It's like, well, it didn't earn me anything already. So if it earned something, that's great on its own. You know, whether it was for me or whoever. But at the same time, you would want credit and, you know, compensation for your work.
Yeah. If you take the work serious. So I will be keeping up with Miss Crystal because she is getting there and finding out like what is the deal. Thank you, Crystal.
Bring the gavel.
Yeah, at Top Music Attorney. So now we're gonna slide over to Servita Music. This one is the 5 new genres in 2025 that people should, I guess, be aware of. He feels like these genres are up and comers. They're new. I've never heard of them, so like for me, they're really new. And I thought this would be a great bridge going into our look at pop and funk, because there might be a little bit of both hiding in these new genres.
That's what I was going to say. Is you can see which elements of whether it's pop or funk, you know, which elements you can pick out in the different styles that we're going to take a look at here.
Yep. Oh, did I get his at? Oh, it is at Servita Music, just like the title. Slick. All right, let's see what these genres are.
I asked you guys on Instagram what are some genres to look out for in 2025, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the top 5 most popular answers. The first genre we're going to look at is our most requested one, and that is going to be hood trap. So hood trap is an underground genre of rap that's been growing in popularity from social media over the last year. And some notable artists are Xavier Sobase as well as Subi Bobby. So first we're going to be breaking down the melody, and then we're going to be breaking down the drums. Now starting with the tempo, we're going to be going up to 160 BPM. Now in terms of melody, we can go in a lot of different directions, but a lot of hood trap sounds mainly sound simple and dark. So the simplest and darkest thing we can start with is a low piano note being held out. The next thing I'm going to do is layer this piano riff on top of it. I'm using the harmonic scale to make it sound more dark, and I'm also adding reverb and delay to make it a bit more ambient. And the last thing I'm going to add is some strings, just doing a really basic chord progression. And this is going to add more dark elements to the beat. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, simple. Now let's move over to the drums. Now the main drum sound you're gonna hear in hood trap is that snare, and that's gonna be playing a dotted 8th note rhythm that sounds like this. And then we're gonna add a clap that's gonna be on the 2 and 4, and we're also gonna add some accent snares that goes in between the main snare pattern. Next thing we're adding is the 808, and that's gonna be following that dotted 8 snare pattern as well. I'm also gonna add some open hi-hats, and that's gonna emphasize those beats even more. In this genre, there's not usually any kicks, but you can add some kind of stomp or gunshot effect on those downbeats. And one last thing you should do is drive that 808 because they really like that distorted and crunchy sound. The next genre we're gonna look at is breakcore. Now breakcore is a genre of EDM that started in the 1990s. It blends a bunch of other genres like jungle, hardcore, and drum and bass to create a really intense and chaotic sound. This genre is fast, so we're gonna bring the BPM up to 170. Now in terms of the melody, this one's gonna be fairly simple because the main focus of the genre is the drums. In terms of the sound selection, we're gonna look for things that are ambient and analog. So my main instrument is gonna be this pad playing this chord progression. The next thing I have is a respace following the chord progression and also adding some slides. And the last thing I'm adding is an analog lead that's just playing a simple melody. And that's all I'm doing, so let's move over to the drums. Now the drums for breakcore are really unique because we're gonna solely rely on sampling. Now the first thing we need to have before we start is a drum break. And if you don't know what that is, a drum break is basically a really short drum solo. The most popular drum break is the amen break, but I'm gonna use this one I found here. Now instead of using the drum break just like this, we're gonna chop and rearrange it so we get a more chaotic sound. In breakcore, you're gonna hear a lot of stutters and rolls, so we're gonna manipulate our drum sample to do that as well. And to spice it up even more, I'm gonna add some drum fills. And the very last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take those melodic elements and we're gonna have them match up with those stutters and rolls, and we're gonna add some glitch effects on top of that so we can really bring everything together. The next genre we're going to look at is Botanica. Now this is a really interesting and unique genre. Botanica is a genre that combines grainy and modular sounds with organic ambience to get that feeling that you're in the middle of nature. Honestly, the best way I can describe it is it sounds like when you're turning on a video game console. It's a very experimental genre and it really pushes the boundaries when it comes to sound design. So we want a slow tempo here, so I'm going to go to 83 BPM. Because the genre is very nature-esque, we want to have a melody that matches that calming sound. I want that romantic anime massage in the middle of a garden kind of sound. So I started with these Studio Ghibli chords, a lot of major ninths, and I'm playing this on my acoustic guitar and my piano. The next thing I'm adding is a very simple melody on my ukulele, and I'm bringing up all that strumming and plucking noise because that's going to be added texture for the beat. So once we have that, we can focus on the elements that really make Botanica unique, which is the ambience and the textures. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is adding a bunch of nature sounds. So sounds of birds, the forest, rain, water drops, and once we have all of that, we can really start to feel immersed. The next thing I'm going to do is add some interesting melodic textures. So the first thing I'm going to have is a piano, and instead of using a normal reverb, I'm going to put it in a convolver where the impulses are the sounds of a forest. And because of that, we can get this really bubbly texture. I'm also reversing that clip and speeding it up so we can get this sound as well. The next thing I'm going to do is play some kalimba, just some random notes and not in any particular rhythm. Then I added some delay to make it a bit more chaotic, and then I'm also speeding this up and bringing it up an octave to create some really grainy textures. And then all I'm doing is fading these elements in and out so it doesn't sound too busy. And there's no drums for this one, so we're pretty much done.
Let me know if you need me.
The next genre we're going to look at is UK Garage. UK Garage is a subgenre of EDM that started in the UK in the 1990s. It takes inspiration from genres like house, jungle, drum and bass, and R&B, and since then it has reemerged into popular music today and is taking more modern influences. For the BPM, we're going to be going to 130. Now in terms of melody, it's pretty diverse at the moment, but a really popular sound right now is starting with some plucky chords. So for the chord progression here, I'm using some minor ninths and some diminished chords to give it some depth, and the rhythm is very syncopated to give it that bounce. The next thing I'm going to add is a chop vocal, and this is really going to help give that EDM feel. And the last thing I'm going to add is a bass. In this genre, basses can range from soft and muted to wobbly and grimy, but in this case, I'm going to be going for something a bit plucky. Now UK Garage has some really distinct drum rhythms, so we're going to start off really simple with the snare on the 2 and the 4, and then we're going to add some hi-hats that are going to be hitting the offbeats. The next thing I'm adding is another set of hi-hats, and that's going to do a lot of syncopation, and this is where you can really start to hear that UK Garage sound. I'm going to offset these secondary hi-hats, and that's going to add a bunch of swing to the beat, and now you can really start to hear the difference. And I'm also going to add some secondary snares to accent that syncopation as well. Now for the kick, you can either do a spaced out pattern, but in this instance, we're going for more of a club vibe, so we're going to do a 4 on the floor kick instead. And the last genre we're going to look at today is private school piano. So private school piano is a subgenre of amapiano that originated from a South African producer known as Kelvin Momo. Now amapiano is known to be a genre that's very energetic, but private school piano takes those elements and they make it more laid back and more chill, which is why it's also known as soulful amapiano. For the tempo, we're going to go to 110 BPM. Now the melody is where private school piano really gets its character. In terms of the instruments, we're going to be using more live sounds, like something that you would hear at a lounge. So I'm going to start with this Rhodes, and we're going to play a very soulful progression. I'm using a lot of 7th chords here to really give that jazzy vibe. The next thing I'm doing is layering this really simple saxophone melody, and the last thing I'm going to add is some vocal hits to really give that amapiano feel. Now in terms of the drums, we're going to be doing some pretty standard amapiano drums. We're going to start off with that soft kick, and that's going to be playing every quarter note. For the clap, I'm going to put that on the 2 and the 4, adding some shakers to get that rhythm, and then adding a bunch of percussion to give it that bounce. The last thing I'm going to add is that classic log drum. That's going to be following our progression, but once again, remember this genre is supposed to be laid back, so this time I'm taking off a lot of high frequencies from the bass to make it less intense. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I love making these genre breakdowns for you, so if you want to see another video like this, make sure you comment below some genres you want to see next. And that's about it for now. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.
If you have any suggestions, leave a comment. If you like this video, leave a like. If you really like this video, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, leave.
Oh, I don't want to leave. I want more.
Yeah, very well done. Nice breakdown.
Yeah, and just looking at these videos, he does have, transforming one melody into 5 different genres. I love
That's a good
videos
exercise.
like this. Yeah, yeah. This is the kinds of channels and videos I'm so glad we get to find.
That one in particular, or that type of video in particular, where you're going to take one particular melody or one song and transform it into 4 different other styles. That's really useful if you have songs that you've written that just don't seem like they feel quite right. Rather than just tossing it, just try reimagining it. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
country song, maybe
Yeah.
it's folk song, maybe it's a much more simple blues song. Who knows? Like you can just change it around completely and just take the ideas, the nuggets of the song, and use them in different ways. And it's a
Yeah.
great exercise.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed with these genres that he mentions here, they're all kind of EDM based. The I have to rethink my drum statement earlier, where like, yes, you can't copyright drums, but in this new EDM world where there's chromatic instruments on top of these drums and the beat making they're doing
Mhm.
is not just something percussive that can't be copywritten.
There's a melody there, yeah.
There's a melody that in some cases really makes it identifies it like a genre. So identifying an artist who has a certain kind of beat using certain instruments to counter the percussion might have a legit copyright there.
I like the fact that there were some faster songs, there were some slower songs. Like, he covered a lot of ground in terms of the styles that he just did in that quick 5. And still, again, the use of the tools, the way he's describing all the different changes real quick, and then just showing you what it looks like on the spectrograph as he's going across. I mean, that was great.
Yeah, yeah, and a good pick across different types of genres. He started with the EDM-ish ones, but that was a private piano at the end.
Private, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna check that one out
Yeah,
because
yep.
I like the sound, and you had me at piano.
For sure. Yep. And then was that the one that started with the Rhodes also? I mean, that sound was beautiful, like that little
Yeah,
Rhodes melody going.
yeah, yeah. I need to get my electric piano groove on. Got all these cool new patches.
Sweet.
So at Servita Music, great new freshy channel.
Right.
Gonna be checking out these different genre approaches. He's gonna help me understand where like some of this electronic music is going.
Very cool.
So now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty on the 2 mashups that we have. We've got a pop mashup and we've got a funk. So we're gonna take a look at pop from the perspective of where it's been, how it's been defined, and what it's going to take to make pop songs now. And like Tatius, like I said before, he encourages get reference tracks, look at what has been that genre, and find something that you want to do like that genre.
Yep. Don't copy from them, but find elements that you would like to incorporate into your track.
Yes, learn from them. So the Paint Doodler, another freshy channel at Paint. That's it. Yeah. I have to zoom in, Glenn. Yeah, at the Paint Doodler, another one with the same name as the at. I love these channels. And he takes that like kind of drawing approach. We've seen some other channels that do it this way, and I as a learning tool, I love when they do it like this. I wish I had this as a kid in school. I would have picked up on this kind of history way faster.
Nice. The birth of cool.
Well, he's going to show every pop culture decade with an explanation, and he's updated it. So like he's getting into the 2020s now. So that's what I really want to see is where is pop going?
Let's check it out.
The birth of cool. The 1950s saw the birth of rock and roll, with trailblazers like Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry leading the charge. Their electrifying performances and rebellious attitudes captured the hearts of teenagers everywhere, and you could almost feel the energy crackling through the air. At home, families gathered around their TV sets to watch groundbreaking sitcoms like I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners, laughing together and bonding over the hilarious antics of their favorite characters. On the silver screen, Hollywood icons like Marilyn Monroe and James Dean lit up the world with their magnetic presence and timeless style. Monroe's signature look, platinum blonde curls, red lips, and a dazzling smile, became the epitome of glamour. Meanwhile, Dean's brooding intensity in films like Rebel Without a Cause spoke to a generation of restless youth eager to break free from the constraints of their parents' world. Fashion in the 50s was all about polished elegance, with women in figure-hugging dresses and men in sharp, tailored suits. It was a time of prosperity and optimism, as families moved to the suburbs and embraced the American dream. So imagine hopping in your '57 Chevy and taking a spin through the vibrant, thrilling world of the 1950s, the decade that gave birth to pop culture as we know it today. The swinging 60s. The 1960s was a decade of big cultural shifts that forever changed the landscape of music, fashion, and social norms. It was a time when the youth boldly challenged the status quo, and creativity knew no bounds. Imagine the excitement of watching the Beatles lead the British invasion, captivating audiences worldwide with their infectious melodies and charming wit. Picture yourself immersed in the psychedelic wonderland of Woodstock as Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and The Who delivered electrifying performances that defined a generation. The 60s also saw the rise of iconic television shows like Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, which transported viewers to new worlds and challenged their perceptions of reality. On the silver screen, films like Psycho and Easy Rider pushed the boundaries of storytelling and ushered in a new era of cinematic innovation. Fashion in the 60s was all about breaking the rules. Women embraced the mini-skirt and bold, colorful patterns, while men experimented with longer hair and more expressive styles. The decade also witnessed the birth of the hippie movement, with its emphasis on peace, love, and self-expression. From the March on Washington to the moon landing, the 1960s was a decade of momentous events that shaped the course of history. The groovy 70s. The 1970s was a decade of disco balls, bell-bottoms, and bold self-expression. It was a time when the music was as loud as the fashion, and the dance floor was the place to be. Picture yourself in the heart of the disco era, as the Bee Gees and Donna Summer dominated the airwaves with their infectious beats and soaring vocals. Imagine the thrill of watching John Travolta strut his stuff in Saturday Night Fever, his white suit and smooth moves becoming instant cultural icons. But the 70s wasn't just about disco, it was also the decade that gave birth to punk rock, with bands like the Ramones unleashing a raw, rebellious sound that would influence generations to come. On the softer side, singer-songwriters like Carole King and James Taylor crafted introspective, folk-inspired ballads that spoke to the heart. In the world of television, groundbreaking shows like All in the Family and The Mary Tyler Moore Show tackled social issues with humor and heart, paving the way for a new era of sitcoms. And who could forget the cultural phenomenon of Star Wars, which launched a franchise that would captivate audiences for decades to come. Fashion in the 70s was all about individuality, from the flowing bohemian dresses of the hippie movement to the glam rock style of David Bowie. Men embraced longer hair, sideburns, and bold prints, while women rocked high-waisted jeans and platform shoes. The radical 80s. The 1980s was a decade of big hair, bold fashion, and even bolder pop culture moments. It was a time when excess was the norm, and the world was forever changed by the rise of MTV and the birth of the music video. Imagine the excitement of watching Michael Jackson moonwalk for the first time, his sequined gloves sparkling under the spotlight. Picture yourself at a Live Aid concert as icons like Madonna, Queen, and David Bowie took the stage to raise awareness for famine relief, their performances becoming instant cultural touchstones. The 80s also saw the rise of the Brat Pack, a group of young actors like Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson who defined teen cinema with movies like The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. On the small screen, shows like Cheers and The Cosby Show brought laughter into living rooms across America, while Miami Vice and Dynasty brought the glitz and glamour. Fashion in the 80s was all about making a statement, from the neon colors and oversized blazers of the power dressing trend to the ripped jeans and leather jackets of the punk and metal scenes. Women embraced aerobics fashion and big permed hair, while men rocked mullets and parachute pants. The 80s was also a decade of groundbreaking technological advancements, from the rise of the personal computer to the launch of the Space Shuttle program. It was a time of endless possibilities, when anything seemed possible if you just believed. The Neon 90s. The 1990s was a decade of grunge, girl power, and groundbreaking technological advances. It was a time when the world was connected like never before, and pop culture was shaped by the rise of the internet and the birth of the MTV generation. Imagine the raw energy of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit blasting through your speakers as Kurt Cobain's haunting vocals and distorted guitar defined the sound of a generation. Picture yourself at a Spice Girls concert as the iconic girl group preached the gospel of girl power to a sea of adoring fans. The 90s also saw the rise of iconic TV shows like Friends, Seinfeld, and The Simpsons, which became cultural touchstones and spawned countless catchphrases and memes. On the big screen, films like Jurassic Park and The Matrix pushed the boundaries of special effects and storytelling, while Clueless and 10 Things I Hate About You redefined the teen comedy genre. Fashion in the 90s was all about experimentation and self-expression, from the grungy flannel shirts and ripped jeans of the Seattle music scene to the bright neon colors and platform shoes of the rave culture. Women embraced crop tops, chokers, and high-waisted jeans, while men rocked baggy pants and oversized sports jerseys. The 90s was also a decade of major technological advancements, from the widespread adoption of the internet and email to the rise of the cell phone and the launch of the PlayStation gaming console. It was a time of endless possibilities, when the world felt more connected than ever before. The digital decade. The 2000s was a decade of rapid technological change, and we were all along for the ride. Remember the excitement of customizing your MySpace profile with the perfect song lyrics and flashy graphics? The hours spent watching viral videos on YouTube and laughing at the latest internet memes? We witnessed the rise of reality TV, with shows like Survivor, American Idol, and Keeping Up with the Kardashians, dominating the airwaves and creating a new breed of celebrity. We stood in line for hours to see the latest Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings movie, marveling at the magic unfolding on the big screen. In the world of music, we experienced a decade of innovation and experimentation. We rocked out to the garage revival sounds of the Strokes and the White Stripes, and danced along to the auto-tuned beats of T-Pain and Kanye West. We discovered new music on iTunes and Napster, marveling at the endless possibilities of digital music. Fashion in the 2000s was all about low-rise jeans, crop tops, and trucker hats. We coveted designers like Juicy Couture and Von Dutch, and emulated the styles of celebrities like Paris Hilton and Britney Spears. The social media era. The 2010s was a decade defined by the rise of social media and digital technology. We witnessed the explosive growth of platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, which revolutionized the way we interact, share, and consume content. Social media influencers became the new celebrities, captivating millions with their daily vlogs, tutorials, and perfectly curated feeds. In the world of entertainment, streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and Spotify changed the game. We had access to an endless library of content at our fingertips, and binge-watching became the new norm. Shows like Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, and The Walking Dead kept us glued to our screens and sparked countless water-cooler conversations. The 2010s also saw the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which redefined the blockbuster movie experience, with films like The Avengers, Black Panther, and Guardians of the Galaxy. In music, genres like EDM and K-pop gained global popularity, with artists like Skrillex, Diplo, and BTS dominating the charts. Hip-hop continued to evolve, with rappers like Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and Nicki Minaj pushing the boundaries of the genre and becoming cultural icons. The decade of transformation. As we entered the 2020s, the world was faced with a global pandemic. Almost overnight, our lives were transformed as we adapted to lockdowns, remote work, and virtual learning. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of digital technologies and changed the way we connect, work, and live. Despite the challenges, the 2020s have also been a decade of resilience, creativity, and innovation. Social media platforms like TikTok have exploded in popularity, giving rise to new forms of entertainment and self-expression. From viral dance challenges to political activism, TikTok has become a powerful tool for driving cultural change. The 2020s have also seen a renewed focus on social justice and equality. The inauguration of Kamala Harris as the first woman, first Black American, and first South Asian American Vice President of the United States was a historic moment that signaled a shift towards greater representation and diversity in politics. In the world of technology, the 2020s have been marked by rapid advancements in areas like artificial intelligence, 5G networks, and space exploration. The rise of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and blockchain technology has also transformed the art world and sparked new conversations about ownership and value in the digital age. As we look ahead to the rest of the 2020s, we hope to see continued innovation, transformation, and progress. So, what is your favorite pop culture decade or that you would have loved to witness? Let us know in the comments section. I will be creating
Oh, that got me thinking of something.
Sure did.
Well, a couple of things. I mean, his point on how each decade and what was going on in those decades influenced the music, and the music in some cases influenced what was going on. Like,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the 80s, where activism and making songs like We Are the World really did change the musical landscape.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. I mean, music, the culture, it all intertwines for sure.
And how he's seeing things after 2000, like 2000 to 2010, a lot of EDM and development there, and then 2010 to 2020, cinematic music. He's not wrong. Marvel, with their like ability to make themes for each character, brought back like cinematic scores. We hadn't had them since like Star Wars. We were missing on those great composers that were bringing the cinematic sound.
You gotta love the cinematic sound, and always a lot of piano in that. I know you like that.
Yeah, yeah. But when it comes to 2020, and this decade is yet to be defined.
Hey, we're halfway there.
Yeah, but we still have no idea where we are.
Yeah, sure. And
And
that's the thing, is we probably won't know until we're into the 30s, because that's one of those things, you don't really look at the whole 10-year package until you're outside of it.
well, and what I found interesting about his observation there is that with social media, and now we're seeing the impact of social media, cryptocurrencies, the things he mentioned there, uh, kind of tied to what we're talking about with the AI, watermarks, ownership, and
Yep.
how do you
Value.
distribute properly. NFTs, I think, are going to become the musical contracts of tomorrow, whether you're doing it through an AI or whether you're selling your album. Um, those are the way to prove your ownership of something through the use of crypto technology. And that's where crypto is useful. If you can give a value to something like, hey, this is my songwriting percentage of this song, and it's in this coin.
Yeah, as long as we're not talking about like breaking out the crypto wallet every time I want to listen to a song. That's not happening.
Well, yeah, crypto wallets are going to be in your phone. That's pretty much become a standard, and at this point, it's just a matter of people starting to use it like they use their credit cards and the paper money.
Sure. Yeah, and the whole monetization of music at this stage and going forward, that's the question. Like, where is the money coming from and going into and coming out as far as the music goes, with especially when it comes to the AI stuff and with these platforms now. If you're using their tools, they own your music, so that makes it an easy answer. Oh, we just made an easy answer. We'll just take all the money.
And if everybody's using your tools, then music is going to start to sound a certain way when everybody starts using an 808. you hear the impact of it in the 90s. And
Yep.
if everybody starts using AI the same way, music's going to start to sound like it's all coming from there.
But I still feel that even if there's a whole lot of AI music out there, there's even more old school musicians who would rather do music the old school way that will continue to do so. And, it's not going to die out. Like, let's put it
Nope.
that way.
Nope. There will be humans playing instruments forever.
Yep. Exactly. Even if
I'm
those instruments are
confident.
just like that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting look through the decades and how pop, because when it comes to pop, it's about what's popular. And some of those decades and some of the artists he mentioned, we don't think of as pop artists, but
At the time.
they were. They were. Jimi Hendrix was popular. There's no denying it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And again, a lot of them, the way we look at it now is also colored by the time that has passed since then, whereas at the time it would have been a whole different thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The times change, and that's why the music changes.
Yep.
Or maybe the music changes because the times change. I
think they
feel like
change.
it's a chicken egg thing when it comes to
Yeah.
the culture and the music that a culture produces.
Yeah, they can go hand in hand. And, some of the most powerful music has a whole, cultural wave attached to it. And a whole cultural wave could have musical stuff that it brings along with it. So they can affect each other in that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to
Like you
be
mentioned, Farm Aid and things like that. We Are the World, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are, things that created music from a whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It changed the value of what making music was, because some artists now became artists because they wanted to do good for the world, and it brought that what do they call it, philanthropic kind of
Philanthropy,
mentality.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, to artists, and that they could actually do something for the bigger cause.
Yep. Exactly. And do something together with other artists to, make it a bigger thing. It's not just about this one, star on the stage. And that's another thing that sometimes there's that whole ego thing where if you have somebody who's used to being the star all the time and now all of a sudden there's 50 stars on the stage, like, who's got the spotlight, who's pushing who out of the spotlight, all that kind of thing. But they all come together for something like that, which is great.
Yeah, watching the We Are the World video, you're watching giants next to each other.
Exactly.
So,
And things like, I think this might have been Clapton's birthday. It was another one of those where you have just a number of like monstrous guitar players on stage and they're all, going back and forth and everyone's getting parts in and all that good stuff.
hey, a Clapton jam, always a good event.
Always welcome.
Yeah. So,
David Bennett.
Yes, we're sliding to David Bennett. He's at David Bennett Piano. Awesome piano resource, but also an awesome channel just for it's like Nari Soul. It's one of those channels where like you've got a musical genius here, and everything he looks at or observes in music is fascinating.
Yeah, and he picked a good subject, like you mentioned this time.
Yeah. Seeing as we're trying to figure out like, what pop is and where can you go out the pop box but still be in it, and tempo has been the thing that when it came to it, like I would say 97% we're going to be in a very standard format.
Yep.
And to go look at the exceptions here, I think is great learning.
Yeah. And again, usually the 4/4 time, that's something that's just considered to be like the paper that you're writing the song on. It's just that standard. It's like we're going to have a song and it's going to have notes and it's going to be in 4/4. It's like you start there and then you go. But this is the others.
Well, and a lot of times you choose these time signatures for notation. Like in the old days, if you had to notate your music, you pick a lot of times the best for having to do the least amount of notating. Because if there's not a lot of really fast stuff, then you don't really need to be in a fast tempo to capture like every little thing. You can be in a slower BPM in an easier time and less dots, less ink to waste on the paper.
Sure.
So let's see what David says about this 3%.
This video was made possible by HD Piano. Learn the best songs on piano at hdpiano.com. We all know that 4/4 time is the most common time signature, particularly in pop music, but how common is it? Well, I've just listened to the top 40 best-selling songs of each year from the year 2000 to the present day, and I noted down what time signature or time signatures the songs were using. And what I found is that 96.57% of 21st century pop music is in 4/4 time. So that's quite a lot. But what about the other 3.43%? What time signatures are those songs using? Well, today we're going to go through the 32 pop songs from this century that aren't in 4/4 time. Let's start in the year 2000 and work our way to the present day. Now, in fact, in the year 2000, all 40 of the best-selling songs of that year were actually just in 4/4 time. So let's move straight on to the year 2001, where we find our first non-4/4 pop song of the century, and it's Falling by Alicia Keys. Falling is in 6/8 time. That means that we have 6 eighth notes in each bar of the music. But in practice, what this actually means is that we effectively have 2 main beats in the bar, which are each divided into 3 eighth notes. So it's a bit like being in 2/4 time with triplets on each beat. That's what 6/8 time is. So let's move on to 2002. And here we once again get one song that's not in 4/4 time, and also once again it's in 6/8 time. You're soon going to realise that 6/8 is basically the second most common time signature we have. This song is Hero by Chad Kroeger of Nickelback fame, featuring Josie Scott. 2003, we once again have one song that's not in 4/4 time, and it's once again in 6/8 time. It's I'm With You by Chad Kroeger's wife, Avril Lavigne. So now we arrive at 2004, and for the first time we have not one, not two, but 3 songs that are not in 4/4 time in the top 40 best-selling songs of the year. And we have another Alicia Keys track, If I Ain't Got You. If I Ain't Got You is in 3/4 time, although it's a swung 3/4 time, effectively meaning we have triplets on each beat of the bar, so you could think of this as being in 9/8 time, but pretty much every transcription I could find put it in 3/4 time, so I'm going to count it as a 3/4 song. 2004 also gave us Hey Ya by Outkast. If we look at the notation for Hey Ya, we can see that there is some 4/4 there, but the thing is it's not all 4/4. Hey Ya is an example of a song in a mixed meter, because it changes between 2 different meters, 4/4 and 2/4. Hey Ya is based on a 6-bar loop, where we get 3 bars of 4/4, 1 bar of 2/4, and then 2 more bars of 4/4. And the third song from this year that wasn't completely in 4/4 is the song Overnight Celebrity by Twista. But the thing is, this song actually is largely in 4/4, it just has an intro in 6/8.
Oh, you didn't think we can do it again? Twista.
So I've included it here, but it is sort of just another song in 4/4 time, really.
The way we mold 'em right, I can make you a celebrity overnight.
Okay, moving on to the year 2005, and we get 2 non-4/4 songs, and they're both in 6/8. We have Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson. And we have You and Me by Lifehouse. Now, as we enter the second half of the decade, we arrive in what I would describe as the era of shuffle, because as you'll now see, for the rest of the decade, the only divergence from 4/4 time we're going to get is 12/8 time. For example, in 2006, we got SOS by Rihanna. 12/8 time is effectively the same as 4/4 time, but with a triplet on each beat of the bar. Because of this, songs in 12/8 will sometimes still be transcribed in 4/4, but with triplets. Because each of the 4 beats of the bar now divides down into 3 eighth notes rather than just 2 like it would in 4/4, it gives the music this skating, swinging sound that we describe as a shuffle, and this shuffle sound really came into fashion in the second half of the 2000s. In 2007 we got The Sweet Escape by Gwen Stefani. In 2008 we got 2 different songs in 12/8, I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. And So What by Pink. In 2009 we got another 2 songs in 12/8 time, Right Round by Flo Rida and Womanizer by Britney Spears. 2010 we got Cooler Than Me by Mike Posner, which is in 12/8 time. Now this same year there was another song, Just Haven't Met You Yet by Michael Bublé, which I almost wanted to count as a 12/8 song, but I've instead counted it as a 4/4 song. And this is because it sometimes isn't that clear whether to consider a song in a swung 4/4 time or in 12/8 time. Some transcriptions of Just Haven't Met You Yet put it in 4/4 but with an instruction to swing the rhythm like this, and some put it in 12/8. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, both 12/8 and 4/4 have 4 beats in the bar, but in 12/8 it's effectively like we have triplets on each beat of the bar. Any song that's in a swung 4/4 time could technically be transcribed in 12/8, but sometimes it would sort of overcomplicate things. The way I see it is if the song is regularly making use of all 3 of the 8th notes, then it's more efficient to transcribe it and think about it in 12/8 time. For example, we can see this in Cooler Than Me by Mike Posner. The synth is playing on every single note of the triplet, so if we did put this in 4/4 time, we would have to just use loads of triplets all the time. But in some songs, they're only really making use of the 1st and 3rd note of the triplet, so we can effectively still think about it as normal 8th notes, but just instruct the performer to swing it. And this is the case on a few songs that I've actually glossed over so far. For example, Holiday by Green Day, which came out in 2005. And Love Song by Sarah Bareilles, which came out in 2008. Technically, you could transcribe these songs in 12/8, but I think they're better counted as 4/4 with swing. As you can see, sometimes putting a time signature against a piece of music can kind of complicate it more than it needs to be. Rhythm and meter is often something that musicians feel innately, subconsciously, and therefore reading the rhythm off a page of sheet music can, for some musicians, make it harder to learn a song. In fact, today's sponsor, HD Piano, offers a really great alternative way to learn songs at the piano that involves no sheet music. They have a massive library of famous songs where they're all presented in this really accessible tutorial system where the notes fall from the top and all you have to do is play along. To get started learning songs today with HD Piano, use the links down below in the description. Thanks very much. Now, if we move on to 2011, we actually have a great example of 4/4 and 12/8 used in the same song. That song is Just Can't Get Enough by Black Eyed Peas. This song starts in very much normal, straight 4/4 time. But later on, it shifts to a shuffle feel. It shifts to 12/8 time. Switch up. So let's go on to 2012, and in 2012 there was one song in the top 40 best-selling songs of the year that wasn't in 4/4, and it was the song I Won't Give Up by Jason Mraz, which was in 6/8 time.
Stars, they burn, some even fall.
In 2013 there was no non-4/4 songs in the top 40 best-selling songs, So let's move straight on to 2014, where we get 2 songs. We get Say Something by A Great Big World, which is in 6/8 time.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
And we also get Latch by Disclosure featuring Sam Smith, which is in 12/8 time. 2015, we get Earned It by The Weeknd, which is in 6/8 time.
Girl, you're perfect. You're always worth it.
And we also get quite an interesting example, Take Me to Church by Hosier. I've actually made a dedicated analysis video about this song before, so check that out for finer detail, but effectively this song starts in either 3/4 or 6/4, depending on where you count the tempo.
My lover's got humor. She's the giggle at a funeral. Knows everybody.
And then for the chorus it moves to 4/4.
Showers like a dog at the shrine of your life.
2016, we got Dangerous Woman by Ariana Grande, which is in 6/8 time. 2017, we got Love on the Brain by Rihanna, which is in 6/8 time. And we also got Believer by Imagine Dragons, which is in 12/8 time. 2018, we got 2 songs in 12/8 time. Youngblood by 5 Seconds of Summer. And Perfect by Ed Sheeran.
Dancing in the dark.
Perfect by Ed Sheeran is a good example of how when 12/8 gets slower, when it's played at a slower tempo, it starts to sound less like 4/4 but with triplets on each bar, and starts to sound more like 6/8 time. When it's at a slower tempo, 12/8 can effectively just be thought of as 2 bars of 6/8 glued together. And sure enough, if we look at different transcriptions for Perfect, some of them are in 6/8 time, once again showing how there can be crossover between different time signatures. 2019 once again gave us no non-4/4 songs, so we move on to 2020, which gave us 1, Before You Go by Lewis Capaldi, which is in 12/8 time.
So, before you go.
In 2021, we got the song Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo, which is in 6/8 time.
And I know that you'll never feel sorry.
2022, we got another 6/8 song, Wasted on You by Morgan Wallen.
Wasted on you. All of this time and all of this money. All of these sorries.
In 2022, we also got Something in the Orange by Zach Bryan, which has a meter that can be thought of in a couple different ways. Personally, I would describe it as a mixed meter of 6/8 and 9/8, so we're regularly switching back and forth between bars of 6/8 and 9/8.
I don't know much, but there's no weight at all.
But I've also seen transcriptions of this song in 3/4 time, which does make it a little bit easier to read because you no longer have to keep switching the time signature, but it's a less true description of what the meter is actually doing here. And that takes us to our last complete year, which is 2023, where we got 2 non-4/4 songs, Rock and a Hard Place by Bailey Zimmerman, which is a very similar example to If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. It's in 3/4, but the 3/4 is swung, so you could see it as 9/8 time.
In a hard place, red wine and mistakes.
And Ella Baila Sola by Eslabon Armado and Peso Pluma, which is in 6/8 time. So that's it. We can see that if a pop song's not going to be in 4/4, it will likely be in 6/8 or 12/8, maybe 3/4, and maybe in a mixed meter. As you can see, there's no odd meters here like 5/4 or 7/4, but that doesn't mean that there's not been any 5/4 or 7/4 pop songs in the century, they just haven't made it into the top 40 best-selling songs of that year. For example, in 2014, Hosier released From Eden, which is in 5/4 time, and I would count it as a pop song, but as you can see, it didn't do quite well enough to get into the year-end charts. Another example would be Taylor Swift in 2020, who released 2 different songs in 5/4 time, Tolerate It and Closure, which I would consider pop songs, but they weren't released as singles. Tolerate It did wind up charting in certain areas, but it certainly didn't become a worldwide hit and wasn't one of the 40 best-selling songs of the year. And this lack of odd meters in the top 40 best-selling songs of the year isn't even just a 21st century thing. One of the best-known examples of an odd meter song is Money by Pink Floyd, released in 1973. But despite being a relatively big hit, it was only the 92nd best-selling song in the US charts that year, so still very far off the top 40 best-selling songs of that year. So there we have the 32 pop songs of the 21st century that diverge from pure 4/4 time. As we just mentioned, just looking at the top 40 best-selling songs of each year doesn't necessarily mean we hear every significant song that came out that year, so do let me know in the comments down below if you can think of any significant non-4/4 songs that came out in the last 24 years.
Oh my God, the amount of research and data that if you were going to go to a college course to understand like metrics of timing and which ones, that was like a college level examination of time signature.
And I love the illustration too, just having, the breakdown of the actual beats on the screen and just, walk you right through it so that, you can make those comparisons. And like you were saying, that whole 12/8 versus 6/8, like those looking the same, and some of them being written, whether it's 3/4 or 6/8, there's a number of different time signatures that are flexible in how you write them.
You notice that some of the 12/8 and the even numbered time signatures could have been 4/4, but for notation purposes and for the weird swing, like if you do it in 4/4, it doesn't actually make sense to a trained musician to see some of those 6/8 and 12/8 notated in 4/4.
Yeah. It can be tricky. And that's the thing, is just trying to get that feel from reading it off the page can be very tricky. And some of the ones where he was illustrating, showing like a left hand, showing like a little phrase, da da da, and having a chord change right at the same time on that second note, that's tricky. So that's where it really comes together.
And a few of them had dual time going. Like there's one instrument that's playing in this time, and the other one's actually playing in like 4/4. Some of the rap, you hear these different time instruments and layers that are bouncing at a different beat.
Yep. And they did mention the one example I always bring up in odd time, which is Pink Floyd Money. I mean, gotta have that in there, because
honorable mention. Like he was sticking with like the 2000s and on with pop, but he did mention like one of the coolest timing experiments from the 20th century.
Yep. There's one, I'm sure there's a number of Fish songs that have odd timing. There's one in particular that always sticks to mind, which reminds me structure-wise of a certain Skynyrd song. And I want to say the song is it Camel Walk? I'll have to check. No, it's Possum. Possum is the Fish song. And it's the timing of it is it's basically like a 12-bar blues, let's say. But it's a 12-bar blues with then an intro bar, so it's like 13 bars, right? Because you're doing like the first line is like ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da, and then boom into the 12 bar, and then it goes back into that. So it's like you do 12 bars and then you do that phrase and then back to another 12 bars. So it's 12 or 16 bars, whatever. It's adding that one extra bar in there.
And it's those like weird little pre-bars or half bars. That's why you need these time signatures, because sometimes you're not doing the 4/4 pattern, you're doing a 3 pattern, and on the fourth one you're hitting weird off notes, and rather than like change the time signature every measure, which sometimes you have to. Rush has songs that literally change every other measure, and
sure.
if
and that's just trying to keep track of what Neil's doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's to basically be able to notate what Neil's doing.
Because he did like 74 things in that measure. And it's a different 74 things than he did in this measure, just slightly.
Yeah, one thing I liked about this Alicia Keys, like she always has impressed me from the
Yeah.
moment she came out, and given the her choices, she's the one who's doing the 3/4s and 9/8.
Yeah.
Like
I like that.
what?
And again, it's how we're notating it, but it might not have been the way that they were even thinking about it. It's just kind of, they had that pulse when the song was coming around, and when you go to try to write it down and put it in the software is like,
What
it tries to put it as 4/4 and it just doesn't work out.
when I think when Alicia's like actually formulate, she's a lot like Sarah Borealis, the other one that got mentioned.
Mhm.
Um, when they play, especially on the piano, they get into those like old school rock and roll bounces, but with like blues shifts that change, slide, and aren't hitting on time. And that's why you kind of have to notate it in this odd timing, because the moment you have odd numbers mixed in with an even number on timing, you've got an extra hit.
Yep. What's the other one? Whipping post. If you ever go to an open jam and you try to play whipping post with people, that's tricky because that one also has, if you look at it as 4/4 and you try to play it as 4/4, you can, but it doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right because the groove has that extra part to
Yeah, I feel like you would lose your groove if
Mhm.
you force yourself into a standard timing
You do.
on a song like that.
You do. And that's one of those ones that, people call it and it's like, yeah. But if I've never played it with these people before, it's like, well, let's give it a shot. And like we jump into it, and you'll know in the first the first couple times around, immediately if it's going to be okay. We're just going to stick to the 4/4 and go that way, or if you're going to actually try to get the groove the way it should be and try to
Yeah,
get everybody on board. Jump in the bus.
if you're feeling saucy.
Yeah. Jump in the bus, get everybody on the same page, and go.
Oh, and speaking of saucy, like now we're gonna get into funk, and funk is a saucy genre. Like it takes that. It does take an artistic approach. Like you're not gonna find the lazy artist jumping into funk because this genre demands like groove
Oh, yeah.
and little
Timing is
bit of
definitely key.
little bit of psychedelics sometimes. Some of that Pink Floyd early stuff, I feel like helped to nudge the funk that you got in the 70s from the psychedelic rock.
I think what I love most about funk is just the fact that it is similar to blues in the fact that it's very simple structure wise usually, but what you do within that structure is awesome. And he's going to focus on all these different elements, he's going to add them one at a time. But when you look at just where we start and you look at where we end up, you realize that there's really not that many ingredients in the funk to get there, but they all sound so good when they're used tastefully and put together, assembled in the way that he puts them together here. Very well done.
Yeah, and he does have a great way of showing like the layers, the build up, and this part mutes versus like stabs, and you,
And my
you have
recommendation, anybody
you
who
have
plays
so
should
many
try this.
techniques. Uh, Funk guitarists especially
Yep.
get to play guitar in a totally different way than when they're playing rock.
Exactly. And it's worth checking out the individual things that he's doing as he adds them in. He talks about each one, and each is an ingredient in the funk. And when you get them all put together and again used tastefully, you don't want to hammer away at any one of them too much, but use all the elements, and you'll find yourself getting pretty funky.
Yeah, and he does show how to do it tastefully.
Exactly.
At Paul Davids over on YouTube, another channel we're big fans of.
Yep,
Every
he's getting
time
up
we
to that.
have a guitar night or something to do with theory,
Mhm.
he's got something in funk here. couldn't ignore them.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Paul Davis and this is How to Play Funk in a few simple steps. Every funk starts with an accent on the first beat, the 1. It goes like this, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Play it with me, fret 7 on the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. But we gotta make it funky. We add some high stabs in there. The punchy high notes that really cut through the mix. Cool, but not really though. We gotta dance. So I'm adding percussive, muted ghost notes in between everything I'm playing. Just gently lay your hands on all the strings and strum up and down like there's no tomorrow. That's the idea. Yes. And the next essential ingredient for funk is syncopation. Cool offbeat rhythms. So we're adding a second and third step played with up strums right after the first one. And now bring back the ghost notes. Yeah, woo, awesome. So now I'm going to spice up the chords with our pinky because that's doing nothing at the moment. I'm adding fret 9 and 10 on the high E string. The order doesn't matter too much. You can mix it around. Now it's time to really add some nice single lines and melodies intertwined with these funky rhythms. Let's do it, let's do... So I'm playing fret 7 on G and 7 and 9 on D. And the second time 7 to 9 chromatic. So that's 2 variations. So the steps are now doing a sort of a call and response thing with the single line melodies. It's super, so much fun. But wait, we're doing everything wrong. How can a funk song only have one chord? That's very strange, right? Okay, so we gotta move to the 4 chord in this case. We're going to the A and we're going to play it as a dominant 7th chord. So I'm playing 5 and 6 on the D and G string. And I'm sliding into it from a semitone below. That's right, awesome. Adding a step from 5 and 5 on the top 2 strings. Nice. And a single line melody again. 7 and 5 on G. Ending on 7 with D. So the second time I'm ending with the slide up to the A7 over here. It's just 9, 8 and 9 on the top 3 strings. So there's 2 variations on A and 2 variations on E. Let's combine them. 3, 4. Wait, we forgot the hammer-on trick on B2 of the E minor. It's such a great trick. So simply on B2 I'm hammering on with my ring finger and middle finger into the E minor 7 chord right after the stab. Sweet. And then another thing. Slide into the 12, classic, from 11 to 12 on the highest string. We can add that any way we like. Okay, so we're almost there and you're doing absolutely great, but we're still missing one key ingredient that concludes this funk lesson. And that is, of course, the wah pedal. Here we go. Sweet. There we are. So the tabs for everything I played are available at my Patreon page. So feel free to check it out. And if you think this lesson went too fast, you can also check out my courses Learn, Practice, Play and Next Level Playing. They're a little more moderately paced, so I think you're gonna like that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This was the Funk Lesson, and I hope to see you next time with another video.
Damn, I could listen to Paul all night. No, that wasn't too fast. That was perfect.
Just right. And again, adding, like, starting watching that video yourself with the guitar in hand and going through step by step, seeing how far you get, like, with the skills that you currently have and which things you need to work on to kind of get the rest of that all in there, because getting all those ingredients together is really, really tasty, as you see.
Well, I was hitting him on the keys as he was explaining them, and I was like, everything here works just as good on the key side as the little waka chaka chaka chakas he's getting. I want to do that with clavs.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to get good with the clav and get that kind of funk, Stevie Wonder like style.
Yeah. Clav, electric piano, organ, like you know, depending on what you're using, and a percussive organ if you were going to do that, but like you wanted to get something that's just got that front end and just jumping right off.
And you notice he turned his guitar into the drum beat with those first couple of layers, those first couple of chucks and plucks and mutes. He was a drum on the guitar.
And that's also where you can build up with a looping pedal. You know, start that whole thing, just, you know, start a bottom layer for a looping pedal, and you could just build something up real simple. And, you know, like he was doing the 2 chords back and forth, so you could just make a small 2, 4, 8 bar loop and just, you know, run that, get that first thing going around. So you're not doing the chunka, you know, for an hour and a half, but you get that started and then lock that into the looper and then just kind of solo all day over it.
Yeah, it's funny how that chukka turns into a awesome lead, because once you've got it going, that's when you get to have fun. Like, this is such a fun genre.
Exactly. And you're about to talk about one of the best guys to do.
Yeah, one of the most impressive basses. But I did love how Paul brought the psychedelics at the end with the wah. Like, when it comes to where you can use flange or wah, funk is one of the coolest genres to go nuts with it.
Definitely. And, like, you know, it's almost like if you're not using the wah and you're playing funk, you're doing it wrong.
It might not actually sound as funky as it could.
There's no question about that. Like, if you're doing anything, no matter how funky what you're playing is, if there's no wah on it, if you then add wah properly, guaranteed more funky.
Yep. It is that magic ingredient in that recipe.
You can overuse it. I mean, like anything else, you can put too much Tabasco in whatever you're doing. Like, you know, you got to be tasteful in what you're trying to put in there. But the idea is to get those nice deep wahs to get that real funky sound.
And actually get the tempo for the wahs.
Yes, that's key.
When it comes to wahs or flanges, you gotta fine tune the tempo of it so it matches what you're playing.
And that's where most of the time you'd be using a manual wah the way he was doing, rather than just turning.
Actually pushing it, like that's the Grateful Dead style.
Yeah, got to do it.
So our last video, which is about a bass legend, and I wanted, whether it was going to be a bass night or hey, we're doing funk. Victor Wooten or Bootsy Collins. These would be the two that like I need to explore.
Absolutely. Get some
And
Bootsy.
yeah, and Bootsy, he really has helped funk to evolve.
Yep, and he agreed with Paul Davids in the one video I remember from Bootsy from way back, where it's basically a funk lesson, I think was the name of the video, but he's just talking about hit on the one, and like the whole video was just all about hit on the one, and then you just kind of add your other little notes in there, and he just makes up a little funk bass line just on the spot, and it sounds amazingly funky. It's just him throwing something out on the bass, but it's just you just do the hammer on the one, boom, and then you put all your other notes in there, and then you got your thing.
They make it look so easy.
They do. And when you're watching along, you start doing it yourself. You're like, hey, that's pretty easy. And like, it's what you're adding in and getting the timing on those little phrases. Like, oh, what was that again? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I might know that.
Yeah, it's like, you mean sort of like, like no. Like, oh, okay. Try it a couple times. You get it.
So this one's going to be coming from at KOM Band Music. It's a band. And what I loved here was this is a good look into an influential artist in the funk world. And he's got a series of different episodes exploring some of this. After I get done tonight, I'm going to go binge. Yeah, but for our funk journey tonight, I did want to get Bootsy in, as I mentioned.
Got to get some Bootsy.
And when we do the next bass night, Victor.
Nice. I got some suggestions for that then, for sure.
Yeah, well, and he's got some funk in him too.
Oh yeah. Might even do something about the playing all wrong notes. That was a fun one.
All right, let's see what Bootsy brings to the table.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Maximus Keys back with a brand new episode of Genre Evolution. I hope all of you are doing great today and are continuing to do positive things in your life. Before we continue this video, I need everybody right now to please like, subscribe, share this video with everyone that you know. So without any further ado, let us get to the video, shall we? If you're a fan of funk, R&B, or even rock, then you must know who Bootsy Collins is. Bootsy Collins would help change R&B and funk culture thanks to the originality of his bass guitar playing, or even passing down the knowledge that a legend would teach him that would help change funk culture forever. But how did he exactly contribute to the music industry? Let's talk about it. Coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, William Earl Collins, or who we will all know today as Bootsy, will grow up alongside his sister Brenda and his brother Phelps Collins, who we will all know today as Catfish. With Bootsy not having a father in the home, he would look up to his older brother Catfish, who would end up becoming a guitar prodigy by the time he was a teenager. Originally, Bootsy wanted to play the guitar, and in fact, he would actually touch his brother Catfish's guitar when he wasn't supposed to, and they would get into a fight over it. Later on in life, Bootsy would get his own guitar, but would move over to bass guitar after his brother Catfish needed to look for a bass guitarist to play in his band. Bootsy would prove his worthiness after taking his guitar and replacing the guitar strings with bass guitar strings so that way he could play with his brother. And it was after that situation Bootsy just decided to stay with the bass guitar. A teenage Bootsy, his brother Catfish, and a friend from the neighborhood by the name of Frank Waddy on drums would start a band by the name of the Pacemakers in Cincinnati, Ohio, where they gained actually a pretty decent following. They would work on their craft hoping to get the attention of the label King Records, which at the time was the first integrated company in Cincinnati, Ohio, ran by a businessman by the name of Sid Nathan. King Records was also the home of the godfather of soul himself, James Brown. And it just so happened that one day, while James Brown's band was taking a break, he decided to call in Bootsy and Catfish's band just to hear them play. And it was after that situation, James would help get the guys hired to be session players for other King Records artists. And they would even hit the road with singer/songwriter Hank Bullard, who had also wrote the song The Twist. But all of a sudden, one day in 1970, after playing at a local club in Cincinnati, Ohio called the Wine Barn, the Pacemakers would get a call from the one and only Bobby Byrd, requesting that Bootsy and his band would come to Columbus, Georgia to do a show for James Brown. They would fly to Columbus, Georgia, and without any kind of rehearsal, they would kill it that night. Partially thanks to Bootsy's bass guitar playing, because by this time, he was 18 years old. And you also gotta remember the strategic plan that James Brown had also made. Because James's backing band was a brand new young band, he needed that young energy to maintain the music. Because by the late 60s and early 70s, there were new bands that were young coming out of the woodworks. But going deeper into context of Bootsy's bass guitar style by the early 70s were not compared to any other bass guitarists within the R&B and even funk community. He would take the instrument, which is stereotypically seen as just a simple instrument in the background, and would play the bass guitar as if it was a leading guitar. And I believe because of that, it helped make James Brown's shows more three-dimensional, if you know what I mean. James wasn't the only star that was expressing his musical talents on stage.
Come on! Do it! Come on!
Even Bootsy's brother got to show his skills too. James Brown would even teach Bootsy the concept of the one. The one is the first beat of the measure, and you would keep accenting on the one for every measure, and that punch would continue throughout the whole entire song. And if you want an example of the one, I advise everybody to look up a song by the name of Give It Up, Turn It Loose. Bootsy would end up leaving the James Brown band alongside his brother and the rest of the band after 11 months of playing with the Godfather of Soul, partially due to the fact that Bootsy was tripping off of LSD during one of their performances. Bootsy was tripping so bad his bass guitar ended up turning into a live snake right before his eyes. After heading back to Ohio, Bootsy and his brother would end up starting a brand new band calling themselves the House Guests. The band would feature Bootsy, Catfish, Frank Waddy on drums, Clayton Gunnels on trumpet, Robert McCullough on sax, and singer Felipe Wind, who would go out to actually leave the House Guests and sing for the Spinners. After playing for groups that would pass by locally, they would eventually settle in Detroit, where they would meet a woman by the name of Malia Franklin, who was actually one of the many singers for Parliament Funkadelic back in the early 70s. She thought the House Guests looked cool and decided to introduce Funkadelic to the House Guests, and very soon they would be a part of the P-Funk Nation. By this time, Bootsy would end up replacing an original Funkadelic member by the name of Billy Bass Nelson, who played bass guitar for Funkadelic. After the House Guests ended up joining Funkadelic, they would get started on recording, and in 1972, they would release the fourth Funkadelic album by the name of America Eats Its Young. Rhythm section wise, America Eats Its Young as a Funkadelic project sounds a little bit different from their previous achievements, from their first record Funkadelic to their second record Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow, and their third record Maggot Brain. Bootsy's perfect timing in the rhythm section would help make the band more dangerous than what they already were. Because of Bootsy Collins' learnings from James Brown, Bootsy would reintroduce the concept of the 1-2 Funkadelic. And ever since Bootsy reintroduced the concept of the 1-2 Funkadelic, there's been different types of outcomes within the music. George Clinton himself even said in an interview, "We already had that slick Parliament sound, but it was always Motownish. We were able to take the James Brown grooves that he would have. It was a whole brand new thing." The rhythm section became a lot more tighter, and it would hit the one right away as if it was a James Brown song. Bootsy Collins would help Parliament Funkadelic steer to a brand new direction of how music should be played, and even the concept of songwriting. Records like Chocolate City and even Mothership Connection would be examples of the one being used in its full capacity. If it wasn't for Bootsy Collins, I don't think the one concept would ever be used in Parliament or even Funkadelic, at least not early on. Shoot, the concept of We Want the Funk probably would have sounded different without Bootsy joining in the band, reteaching the one. Soon by the mid-70s, George would help Bootsy construct his own band that will be an extension of the P-Funk Nation. The band will be called Bootsy's Rubber Band, and it would feature his older brother on lead guitar. And Bootsy's Rubber Band will release their first record in 1976. But Bootsy would mix up his style a little bit, adding pedals into the mix, which would help bring his bass guitar solos to life. And it was because of those different things that he was doing with his bass guitar, he would help popularize the spectacle style of playing bass guitar. And with him breathing new life into the bass guitar, he would even come up with songs such as Stretching Out and I'd Rather Be With You, which would all be hits by the way. Bootsy's first album would come out on January 30th, 1976 and would hit number 59 on the US album charts and would hit number 10 on the US R&B charts as well. And Bootsy would keep hitting that one as always. He would release another record in 1977 titled The Name is Bootsy Baby, and another record in 1978 titled Bootsy, Player of the Year. But very soon he would end up taking an unfortunate declining downfall within his career. Drugs will end up taking over his livelihood, specifically cocaine and crack. Around the time when he felt the pressures of being a band leader, he would end up canceling a tour in 1978, and he would even end up having a nervous reaction with all the overwhelming things that was happening in his life. Even though he stopped touring, he actually kept recording. In fact, back in 1982, he would release a single by the name of Body Slam. He would keep the funk alive as always, but unfortunately he would stop making music under his name for a total of 6 years. Very soon after his hiatus, Bootsy would come back in more ways than one. He would come back as a musician, and a brand new generation of young R&B and hip hop artists would even use some of his songs to sample to breathe new life within his music. Dr. Dre would sample We Want Bootsy and would put that in the song We Want Easy for Eazy-E. Adina Howard would have a hit song by the name of Freak Like Me, and on the chorus line, she would take the melody from I'd Rather Be With You by Bootsy and put it within her song. He even sold into a brand new group called D-Light on the single Groove Is in the Heart. He even did collaborations with Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Silk Sonic, Tyler the Creator, and Kali Uchis, and plenty more people that covers a whole entire list. But this only shows that his contribution went deeper than just R&B and funk. He would collaborate with rappers, singers, and even just other musicians. Because of Bootsy's innovative style and his contribution towards music culture, his legacy will never die, and he'll forever keep inspiring musicians to want to play music and producers as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of Genre Evolution. I want to thank all of you for pressing this video. I hope everybody learned something within this deep dive, and I'm going to keep clocking out more every week. Thank you so much for watching this video once again, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.
Oh, you keep clocking them out, and I'll keep clocking them in. I can't wait to go through his other episodes because that was. I want to see a Bootsy movie.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
even
gonna have
just
to
that background
look.
groove going through that whole thing, that little background groove, awesome. just like just like grooving along to the thing, grooving along the thing the whole time. That's awesome.
Oh, and when he was in D-Light, that last one that they mentioned, when I was so happy to hear him in that.
Nice.
His influence, when you have a bassist like this, it is like a Jimi Hendrix, except in a bassist who wanted to be a guitarist, but damn, my brother's better. So I do like this bass, and he completely owned the instrument.
Owned it. Yep.
Everybody who wants to play bass or get any kind of funk goes to like his influence.
Absolutely. So many good
And
things to pick from there.
and he wasn't afraid to experiment with the tone. Like part of what was getting him the sound he was getting was that he was messing with the tones and the choices he had to get new bass sounds at a
And
time
using
where
oh,
bass was
yeah.
pretty basic.
Yep, exactly. Experimenting and pushing that edge. It's the way to get to new ground.
Yeah, I think when it comes to doing funk, all you funk or gonna
Funkatee.
try to get funk, go listen to some of these early references. You'll find your groove.
Definitely.
So that was that KOM band music. Gonna be back. Another great freshie there.
Definitely.
And good history. So that gets us ready for this weekend where we're going to be getting our round 3 submissions. Mashup 2 is going to be Funk, Matt, JH, and Christina with Static again and Mavi. And the Pop Mashup 1 is going to be The Unfantastic and RJS, and Pinky Chew and Maria Perdomo. So
Nice.
we're gonna get those submissions tomorrow at midnight. Not sure if we're gonna be listening to them live or not, but we'll definitely be looking at some of the round 2 stuff tomorrow night and taking a look at some of the judges in action.
All right. And, you know, we got funk and we've got pop. So may the funk be with you. May the pop be with you. Got to do it.
Oh, funk that IT.
Exactly. Hey, it is a Thursday, so gotta talk it.
I think we funked that up.
A little bit. That's all right. I think they might forgive us.
Yeah, you're supposed to funk it up.
Yeah, you're allowed. It's okay.
So we'll see you tomorrow night for a little bit of wagon review.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Enjoy. See you next time.
Night, everyone.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking IT. We're talking